to entertain wine producers, customers.
So when is this building being built?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Various different times. And the tiles are rather beautiful. They're by the De Morgans, who were famous ceramicists of the 19th century. Sorry to make it so brief.
It's okay, it's okay.
It's just a very short window of opportunity to show you.
Sorry, this might apologize because it's a rush to make
It's last minute, yeah.
Yes, let's move.
So this is a tasting room like no other. We conduct wine tastings in here that aren't necessarily about education. If you're a well-known customer, if you're well-known to us, and you want to buy some wine, we might taste it together. If we want to introduce you to something new, we'll conduct the tasting in here. But the transfers around the room that everyone seems to miss are very special because they're late Regency period, 1820 or so, and they're amongst the first of their type. Before that, they would have been hand-painted. Come on downstairs, we'll go through the shop, and I'll tell you a little bit about the age of the building itself.
Okay.
Smell.
香哦，这是咖啡的味道，好香。咖啡味，小心。这是历代吗？对，因为历代的欧姆。
Right, so back in 1698, this business was founded. In 1698, the year that Whitehall Palace burnt down, almost all of it. And St James's Palace, which wasn't really a palace at the time, suddenly became the central London residence of the sovereign, of the king, or the queen. And this place was founded in 1698 too. So from the year dot, year one, we had a wonderful captive trade to the palace in coffee, tea, spices, snuff, tobacco, cocoa, all the fashionable late 17th, early 18th century commodities of the period. And we used to weigh them on those scales. But also, we began to weigh our customers on the scales. It became very fashionable to come in and be weighed and be measured and to have your weights and measures recorded.
Wow.
So we have ledgers going back to 1765. Let's pull out one of the medium-sized ones. We have some very big ones at the back. They're just too big to lift. But there are all sorts of interesting people in here, visiting heads of state. Lord Henley, all these important and well-known people of the period, and they would write down, or we would write down, their weight and their height and their excuse about putting on weight. In the 17th, 18th, 19th, early 20th century, if you were putting on weight, it wasn't such a bad thing. If you were losing weight, it wasn't healthy.
Okay.
Because imagine in those days, if you were losing weight and it wasn't deliberate, if you didn't know why, it meant you were going to meet God before long. It meant there was a problem inside. This is before the age of operations. So people didn't want to lose weight unless it was deliberate. So people like Beau Brummel, the great ultra dandy of the period, he's the man who created the modern suit. In the 1790s, 1800, he used to sit on those scales in the nude with his friends around him, all commenting on his latest witticism. And Lord Byron, the great poet, was also weighed on those scales, and he's attributed with the best weight gain excuse, 30 kilos. 30 kilos between visits, 3 years apart, and he attributed, it's one of these later ledgers here, he attributed his weight gain to mud on his coat. 30 kilos. What's this one from? This is from 1795. So during the early part of our incarnation, we inhabited this shop. we were called an Italian warehouse. Nothing to do with Italy. It was a grocer, someone who sold all the fashionable products that this neighbourhood, this modern neighbourhood, wanted. Modern in those days. But of course, this place had a previous use. Before we came there was a tennis court here, a real or royal tennis court. Real tennis looks like a squash court with another squash court like that. So it's a galleried game. It's a medieval game. And this flank wall that goes over to St James's Street is the flank wall of Henry VIII's real or royal tennis court. So he used to play tennis here in the 1530s, 1540s. And it was into this building that we arrived in 1698. By 1734, there was enough money from selling tea, coffee, spices, a bit of wine, to build these buildings here. Let's see if this is it's locked. Let's go around that way. So you can see the flank wall of the tennis court here. Henry, back in 1528, he dissolved what was here already. This used to be a leper colony. You know what I mean when I say leprosy? It's a disease.
Okay.
It's almost extinct now. I think in some parts of Asia you have it, in Egypt and places like that. It dissolves your fingers, your nose, your ears, your toes. You end up like this and you go blind. So this used to be a leper colony for leprous maidens from 1100 till Henry VIII dissolved it. And in 1532 he built the tennis court here, and he built St James's Palace. It wasn't a palace, it was a hunting lodge. He built it as a love nest for Anne Boleyn. This used to be farmland to succour the poor leprous maidens, and he made it into hunting land. So he used to ride around chasing deer in this area. Here are the shutters we put up on the windows occasionally. So we own the white building is above our shop and above our subject cellar. That building over there is above our Napoleon cellar. This we lease out as a block of flats. That's a block of flats. That's offices. We lease this out as a restaurant. We lease this out as a art gallery, law firm. Everything else, though, on two sides rather, we use for ourselves. So rather than taking income, we actually use it. Below is our Pickering Centre, where we have a classroom. This is our smallest space, the townhouse, where we can have up to 14 people, whether a private event or a brochure event, so we advertise events. And we have about 1,350, 1,400 events a year for the public, whether they've elected to come, buying tickets, or they're hired to play for themselves. So that's our smallest space, up to 14. We'll go through the side of it to get down to the Sussex cellar. In our Sussex cellar, there's something going on, so we'll go through very quickly. The idea here is that you come through the 17th and 18th century, come through the wall, and then 3.5 years ago we finished this. So we take income from the office building above. Our shop is on this level. Did you see the new shop?
No.
Come and have a look. Thanks.
看起来超美，
So the old shop that you started in, We only had bottles on display there for 15 years. It was never right for that purpose. About 15 years ago, we started window displays, putting bottles on display. But the floor is like this. It's between 300 and 500 years old. And the floors are not very strong. We can have receptions in there, but we can't have vast banks of bottles. It's small. The air conditioning is only allowed in one place because it's very listed by the local, by the National Trust, by the English Heritage. So this is a new space above our Sussex. We can show quite a lot of our range. We can show about 5,000 wines, 1,000 spirits, and we can show about 1,400 wines in there, about 500 spirits. They're enigmatic. There's a proper card. We can have different coherent displays. Our own selection. Also, we enlivened Pall Mall, which used to be a very boring street. So it made it an exciting place. Because historically it was a very fashionable street. And then it died a death, and now it's becoming fashionable again. So other places are opening up, like Wine Club 67 or Favourable, the clothing shop. Come on downstairs and I'll show you the